Alrighty, it's time for an update to Leonardo Design Studio. So we want to go over to Siser.com, and under Cutter we're going to select Leonardo Design Studio. Then we're going to scroll down and click on the link to the software. Now you are going to want to make sure that you are logged into your account. Up the top you're going to see the latest versions of the software for both Mac and Windows, and underneath are all the legacy versions. So today let's download the latest edition in Basic, which is 1.1.8. Once you've downloaded it, you want to double click on the executable file. Quick note here, make sure that Leonardo Design Studio is closed before you begin. Click through the agreement and setup, and the update is complete. Leonardo Design Studio will open automatically. But before we head on over, let's take a quick look at the notes. So we've got some new options for paths, options for multiple cutters and preferences, as well as new tools. So straight away I can see that I have a new menu option called Paths. Over on my side toolbars, I can now have them both open or both closed. It's a bit cut off down the bottom just due to my screen size. Let's take a look at preferences. I've still got my quick select options, but I've now got all preferences, and that opens up in a new tab. And in here I can select or I can change my keyboard nudge or movement. I can also toggle on and off small page marks. So just make sure you do have a printer that can print borderless if you want to put them on, or small page margins I should say. So I can also set up some default settings, so I can set up a default mat size. I can also set up a default page height or page width. And then over in my editor options, I can then turn on my continuous draw mode for shapes or curves, or the zoom mode. Underneath there I can toggle on and off my show hints, which I'll show you in a moment. For the moment I'm just going to toggle on the continuous mode shapes. Now that custom line dash, I can actually change the length and the gap with that, so it becomes whatever is more suitable to me. And I'll show you where to turn that on and off in a moment. Alright, so let's just draw some shapes just to get us started. So you'll see as I hold my mouse over the center of that shape, down in the bottom right hand side corner it's coming up hints for me. So if I hold down my shift key, I can move my shape horizontally but not vertically. If I hold down my control key, I can move it vertically but not horizontally, and my alt key will duplicate. So let's go back into preferences, and I'll turn off continuous mode, and here is one area where I can turn on and off my hints. But down the bottom of my properties tab, I can also toggle on and off my hint button. Alright, let's take a look at the color eyedropper tool, which is in our properties over here. So first of all, let's draw some shapes. We'll do 5 of them. Remember, we use the cursor to turn off our continuous mode if we've got that selected. And I'm just going to pop them all up here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to import a color sampler. So if I come down to import and I go back to my downloads panel, that's this one. What about some macarons? That sounds good. Now when I open them, I am going to open them as a background image, not as a print and cut. I'm not printing it, and I'm also not cutting it. I'm only using it to select the colors. So I'll bring it in as a background image, and I'm going to turn off print and cut. There we go. Only just so it's just a bit bigger for you, that's all. Not for any other reason. Okay, we'll turn this one off again. Alright, so to use my eyedropper tool, is just here. It's just a simple matter of selecting the shape that we want to change the color of. We come over here and select the eyedropper, and then we click in the color. So once again, we select the shape, we click on the eyedropper, and then we drop our eyedropper over the color that we wish it to be. And again. Now, if we accidentally click on the eyedropper before we've selected our shape, it's okay, we just come down here to the cursor and turn it off. Alright, so it's select the shape or the text or whatever it may be, eyedropper, put it over the color, and it'll change the color for you. So this just makes it so much easier to color match anything that we're doing. If we've got an image in there and we want to match the text to it, or we wanted to add in something and keep the colors the same, we can now do that. We can actually bring our little eyedropper over and select the colors, and you can see how that is changing as I run it over this image. And it just saves us having to put in the hex codes or choose the RGB values. We can simply use a little eyedropper, just easier. Alright, so I'm just going to get rid of this for now, and I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to mess it all up. You'll see why in a minute. Okay, so another new feature that's been added in is this select shapes by color. So if I click on that, it's going to open up a box for me which gives me all the colors that are currently on my design page, including everything out of my actual design area. Okay, so everything waiting in the wings as well. So if I click on that and I go accept, it's going to select the colors that I have asked it to. So I can then move that. So if I do it again, select by color, let's go the papaya whip, oh what a lovely name, and go accept, and there we go. So that makes it nice and easy if we've got lots of different colors on the page and we need to select them to make a change. We can simply select by color instead of having to go through and hold down the shift key and select the color, possibly missing some. That just makes it much easier for us. Okay, so that is our eyedropper tool. Let's talk about the custom dash. So if I go through and I draw like a card shape, just for want of a better thing to do, and I select my pen tool. Now remember, with the pen tool we click, you can hold down the shift key to draw a straight line, then we click again while still holding the shift key, and then while we're still over that we need to go done. Okay, and there is our line. So with our line we can select all sorts of different ways we can do it. So if we come over here, we can do a solid line, we can do a small dash, we can do a large dash. The color isn't great, hang on a minute, let me change that color so you can see. There we go, that's better. But now we can also select that custom dash that we set up. So that was a custom dash that I set up. So if you're doing scoring for folding cards or anything like that, just means that you can set up your own dash without having to rely on the small or the large one, maybe not quite being how you want it to be. So our custom dash again, if I click on it, you can find it here. Okay, so normally it would say solid line, but you can actually change it to your custom dash. And remember to set up the custom dash was back in preferences. In all preferences, under editor options. I'll just turn off that while I'm here. Down the bottom here, you can set the length and the gap. Okay, so let's move on to, I think, the most exciting part of the updates. This update actually happened in 1.1.7, so I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but there were improvements made in 1.1.8, so I can show you a fair few things you can do now. So let's go and import an image. I chose these little cute little gnomes. There's a reason I chose them. You will see. Okay, so if we open that one, now this is a transparent PNG file. There's no markings around this, which means that when I go through in print and cut through to my trace area, it's actually going to trace everything individually. Now if I'm making a sticker out of this design, that's kind of not ideal. I don't want all these little bits in a sticker. Now I could try adjusting my minimum contour area, but that's really not going to help me much. And I could come through to my contour offset and I could play with that, bring it all the way up to 100, but I still have these little bits in here. So now what I can do, and I'll just bring that down to say about 40 and click finished and bring this in, turn off print and cut just so you can see, and make this bigger. Okay, so in 1.1.7 they added release cut contours, which means that trace that I just did, I can actually release it from the image, which means I can then edit it. So if I go up here to edit and I say release cut contours, you can see that blue line actually shows up. So that's my cut contour. And then with my cut contour selected, if I then go down here to build contours, I keep it on print and cut logo, because remember at this particular moment in time I am still wanting just that outline for my sticker, and I want it to be a kiss cut, so I don't want to change that at all. So if I come down here and I simply move it out until it is all around and I've got no holes in there at all, and then hit apply and turn off print and cut again, you can see now that my contour is all around the design and not on the individual elements. So if I go through to send design, there is my cut contour. Remember, I turned off print and cut, which is why it's not saying print and then cut contours. Now before we had to make a die cut, it was a bit tricky. Now it's so much easier. So now because I've got that cut contour released and I've got it selected, I can simply come down here to build contours again, so click on that. I can now select editable contour, so this is the one that I just want to cut. I'm just going to select a better color so that you can see. Alright, and then if I then play with my offset amount, and bring it out a bit, there we go, something like that, and then I say apply, so you can see now that I have an outline around my kiss cut, so I could die cut and kiss cut this one sticker if I wanted to. Now don't panic, the image is still there. You can see when I scroll over it's still there. All that's happened is when the editable cut contour has come through, it's put it in front. So it hasn't actually disappeared at all. In fact, if I go up to arrange and I say center back, you can see everything's still there. It's just one of the quirks. It comes in and it puts it in front, but it's really no problem, because what I'm going to do is, with that selected, I'm going to come over to my layers panel, and I want to show you something else in here as well. So here is my cut contour, okay, and I want that to be a full cut. So I come down here to default and cut, and I select full cut, and now they've changed that line to green, which is awesome, because before we had the cut and the full cut was the same color, and it was a little bit difficult to work out. Now this is my kiss cut group here. I'm actually just going to ungroup that just so it makes it a bit easier, and you can see that that is on the cut. So that would be my kiss cut, and this one would be my die cut. So you can see it's much easier to use now. If I go through to my send screen, actually I'll just turn on print and cut just to make it a little bit easier. Select everything and bring it down, and send design. Alright, so here's my print screen. That's what I'm going to print, and then here are my cut contours. So the blue one is my kiss cut, and the green one is my die cut, and I can set it over here. So there's my kiss cut, and there's my die cut. But wait, there's more. There is more, and it's really exciting. And for all those sticker makers out there, you're gonna love it. Okay, so let me just zoom in just a little bit. Maybe just pan across a bit. All right. So I've released these contours. Everything here is separate. Like I can move everything away. So there's my die cut. There's my kiss cut. There's my image. Okay, so I've separated everything. I'm just gonna put it all back together. With that all separated, if I now double click on that die cut edge, I bring up edit nodes. So I can actually edit not only my die cut, I can actually edit my kiss cut as well. So if I decide that I want to get rid of some of these little nodes in here. Now remember, if you double click on a node, that's how you delete it. Alright, so if I just wanted to play with that and bring it up. But the best part of this is, especially for my sticker makers out there, if you wanted to put some branding on here, if you selected the nodes and brought them out, and then maybe we'll delete a few of these just to make it easier. And then we'll smooth that off a little bit. And smooth that one off. Kind of making like a little tab. Now you've got an area where you can put your text. So you can put your branding in there, or maybe your instructions, your website address, whatever it might be. You can actually make a little tab, and that will then die cut, and you can do that quite easily now. Alright, let's talk about text or font options. So we've got a couple of changes down in here. So let's open up our text tool. So a couple of things that we can see straight off. We've got the font size. You can see we've got a bigger example of what our font will look like, including the name. Just a little bit easier to see. Now our glyph panel actually changed in 1.1.7, so before our glyphs were shown, it didn't show the entire glyph, especially if you went down to your little curly whirlies down here. They're a bit cut off, so it was kind of guessing what it looked like, but now you can see all your glyphs quite clearly and they're quite easy to change. Now I'll show you, just in case you're not quite sure on how to apply a glyph. Now remember that not all fonts have these curly whirly little glyphs. They're available in some fonts, and most other fonts have things like they have accents and the other little characters, but they don't necessarily have the curly ones. And to get back to a font, if I click on any of my fonts here, turn it blue, and then start typing slowly, doesn't like it if you go fast, you can get back to the font that you want. Alright, so to change a font, I simply come over, to change it to a glyph, I simply come over and move the letter that I want to change to a glyph and scroll down until I find the glyph I would like to use. Let's use this one. Okay. And then if I wanted to change one in the middle, once again, same thing, come over, remove the one I don't want, and then replace it with a glyph I do want. Oh, it's much easier to see them now. It's lovely. Now I've got my auto world text on. So if I go apply, and then I go back to color picker, bring that up so you can see it, and go stroke, you can see that everything is welded together. In 1.1.6 they actually brought out the feature where it tells you, even when it's welded, what the font name is, which for me is just amazing because I'm forever forgetting what font I've just used. So even when it's welded, when selected, as long as it's not grouped or made into a compound path, it'll tell you what the font name is. Alright, so let's pop that over there. Let's go back into our text box because there's a couple of other things to show you. I'm just going to get rid of the glyph box for now so it doesn't distract us. So if I come over here to my alignment, I now have a no wrap option. So what that means is if I start typing, and I just keep typing, you'll see that even in the text box it hasn't dropped down to the next line, and if I go apply, it's all in one line. Now it doesn't matter what I do, I can make it smaller, I can make it skinnier, I can make it fatter. It's not going to change it at all, it's going to stay in one line, like so. And that is fabulous. Now to get back out of that, you'd simply just go center or left or right, either one of those. You can also just show fonts for your particular language if you like. So you can actually see how many fonts I selected at the moment. I did take a few off because it was taking a long time to load the fonts, so I took a few off. I mean, I took a lot off. Alright, so there's our text features. So just one more thing I wanted to show you, actually it's two more things I wanted to show you, that was a bit of a fib. So if I come back here, just into my little gnomes, so in my layers, okay, just a couple of things that I probably haven't shown you before. So if I double click on any of these where the writing is, I can actually type in what I want to call it. Remember to hit enter, which is what I just didn't do. Okay, so you can change the name of them if you're struggling to know which is which, especially if you have a lot on the page. You can move things around, so I can move that image above so I've got both my layers together. I can create a separate layer and I can have them different, so I can have my image, so I can turn on and off my image or turn on and off my cut lines. And if I go down here to more, I can also select different things. So I can select the current color, I can select all, I can select shapes by color. So if I come up here and I'm a bit tricky and I do black, because it's only going to select the image, because the image is the only one that has black in it. See, it selected the image. I can select via my cut contours as well. So if you've got a lot of stickers on the page and you need to make changes to a particular area like your kiss cut or your die cut, you can actually select by your cut contours. It just gives you a little bit more freedom, especially if there's a lot going on that page. So that's your layers panel, which is in your properties next to your color picker. Alright, the last feature I'm going to show you is being able to ungroup traced images. So let's go and import. We'll import this one here, this little gnome one. Now I'm just going to go through on a print and cut, not going to change anything, just going to take it all the way through the trace program. Next, and finished. Alright, so I'm going to go through and turn off the print and cut. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger just so you can see it. Alright, so I've bought this, it's a transparent PNG image. I've bought it in, I've traced it, but I don't really want the gnomes. I'm just going to cut from adhesive vinyl the Home Sweet Home. I'm just going to make a decal out of it. So I can actually now ungroup this traced image so easily. So with it selected, you just want to go up to Paths, Ungroup Paths, and then look at this. So now very easily I have the bit that I actually wanted, so I can make a decal is there. I don't have to do anything else. I can just go through to the cut screen and cut it out. Now if I wanted to use the gnomes and do a print and cut, once again, it's as simple as putting them back in and turning it back into a print and cut. And I could cut them separately. I can even go as far as moving each of the elements. So perhaps I only wanted that little gnome. So now we can very simply ungroup traced images. And that's the end of the features that I'm going to show you for the 1.1.8 update. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in future updates.